So singer David is in some hot water. Previously, it was reported a dismembered body was found in the trunk of his car while he was on tour. Today, the dead body was identified as a 15-year-old who's been missing since she was 13.
So basically, I played Fortnite from 2017 to 2021. Game came out in 2017. I was one of the first people to ever play the game. So I played that game. I became a YouTuber.
Yeah, it was impounded right here in Hollywood.
No way.
That's for sure evidence. If it's a body found in there, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, they're gonna scrub that. But I mean, obviously his DNA is gonna be in it, and her DNA is gonna be in it. I feel like if they don't find other DNA,
bro. Either way it goes, she's been missing. That's a missing child.
Is he arrested yet?
New footage of David just flipped his whole story upside down. The leaked video, pulled straight from CCTV in a Los Angeles parking lot, shows way more than just his shiny black Tesla sitting under streetlights. It captures a late-night scuffle breaking out right beside the car, and suddenly the question isn't about music anymore. It's about who was with David that night and what really went down before his ride became the centerpiece of a crime scene. The tape is blurry, the angle's rough, but the details are undeniable. Police tape stretched tight around a Tesla Model 3, sirens flashing, and officers huddled in tense silence. Then comes the moment that made everyone freeze. A coroner's team carefully dragging a body bag out of the trunk. That single image hit the internet like a bomb, turning a missing girl headline into a nightmare that now shadows one of Gen Z's fastest rising stars. This wasn't just another messy paparazzi clip. It was cold, raw, and impossible to ignore. Fans who once only debated his lyrics are now questioning his alibi, while the industry whispers about whether this is the end of his career before it even reached full speed. What started as a parking lot mystery has exploded into the biggest scandal of his young life. Los Angeles has always been a city built on extremes, where red carpet flashbulbs blind you on Sunset Boulevard, while just a few blocks away, someone's being cuffed on Skid Row. But even in a town used to scandals and tragedies, nothing could have prepared Hollywood for what unfolded on September 8th, 2025. At first, it all looked routine. Hollywood Tow, a quiet impound lot tucked behind the chaos of Mansfield Avenue and Romaine Street, had seen every type of vehicle roll through its gates. Dusty cars dumped for months, stolen rides stripped to bare frames, even glove compartments hiding rat nests. But that week, something different showed up. A sleek jet black Tesla Model 3 with Texas plates, still looking fresh off the lot. The kind of car you'd expect to see pulling up to a luxury hotel valet, not sitting abandoned on a winding road in the Hollywood Hills. That's exactly where it was found, parked for nearly a week, left to collect complaints from neighbors who finally called it in. On September 6th, the car was hauled down to the impound, and no one batted an eye. In a city like LA, abandoned Teslas were strange, but not shocking. But 2 days later, by the morning of September 8th, workers at the lot realized something was horribly wrong. The smell hit first, sharp, overpowering, unforgettable. One worker told reporters it was nothing like rotting food or leftover garbage. "That's not trash," he said. "That's death." The odor was so strong, it burned in their throats, clung to their clothes, and made stomachs churn. That was when panic set in, and the staff didn't hesitate. They called in the LAPD's Elite Robbery Homicide Division. What came next would turn a simple abandoned car report into one of the most chilling Hollywood crime scenes in recent memory. Cops in Los Angeles thought they knew what they were walking into. Calls about strange smells in cars usually meant drugs stuffed in compartments or maybe some spoiled food rotting in the back seat. But when they cracked open the hood of that sleek black Tesla, what they uncovered was something straight out of a nightmare. Inside the front trunk was a giant plastic bag. And inside that bag, a body. Not just lifeless, but severely decomposed, so far gone it couldn't even be recognized at first glance. A crime scene had been hiding in plain sight, right under the noses of workers who had been walking past that car for days. Even seasoned investigators froze. Some turned away in disgust, while others just stood silent, stunned by what they were staring at. For the impound staff, the horror hit even harder. The idea that they'd been unlocking gates, moving cars, and clocking in for shifts while a dead teenager lay just feet away, it left them shaken to the core. But the real shock came when the plates and paperwork were checked. This wasn't just anyone's vehicle. The Tesla belonged to David Anthony Burke, known worldwide as D4vd. He wasn't some underground name chasing fame. He was already that guy, the artist behind viral anthems like Here With Me and Romantic Homicide. His music racked up hundreds of millions of streams. His TikTok numbers skyrocketed daily. And in 2025, he was in the middle of his sold-out Withered World tour. And here's the twisted part. While police in LA were zipping up evidence bags from his abandoned car, David was across the country performing in front of thousands of screaming fans. He had no clue his Tesla had just turned into the centerpiece of a full-blown homicide investigation. The LAPD wasted no time announcing that this wasn't just a suspicious car. It was officially a homicide investigation. But even though detectives carefully avoided naming David Burke, also known as D4D, as a suspect, the damage was instant. Public opinion doesn't wait for press conferences. It explodes on its own. Overnight, the entire image David had built crumbled. The quiet, mysterious, introverted Gen Z artist with the moody, sad boy aesthetic, gone in a flash. Fans felt blindsided. How could the same young man who once confessed he made songs out of loneliness, who talked openly about faith in the struggles of isolation, suddenly be tied, no matter how loosely, to a decomposing body in his own Tesla? Clips of the impound lot flooded the internet, blue and red police lights flashing off the car's glossy paint, officers circling, cameras clicking. It became one of the most chilling, unforgettable visuals of 2025, even though investigators kept repeating the same line. No arrests had been made, no suspects identified. The public already had its villain in mind. The whispers online turned into hashtags, and the speculation spread faster than the facts. For days, the mystery deepened. Police kept their statements vague, revealing almost nothing. All they would confirm was that the body pulled from the front was female, badly decomposed, and hidden for an extended period of time. But behind closed doors, forensic specialists were racing to uncover the truth. To the world, she was just an anonymous victim. But investigators were determined to give her back a name. September 17th, 2025, the day everything became heartbreakingly clear. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office confirmed the body in D4vd's abandoned Tesla was 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a teenager from Lake Elsinore in Riverside County. That single announcement sent shockwaves across California and beyond. For Celeste's family, who had lived in unbearable limbo for more than a year, it was the nightmare ending they had begged God to spare them from. Celeste had vanished back on April 5th, 2024. That afternoon, she told her brother Matthew she was heading out with him to catch a movie. But somewhere in the middle of what should have been an ordinary day, Celeste disappeared. And she was just 13 years old at the time. Her family's fight to find her was relentless. They blanketed Lake Elsinore with missing posters, launched online campaigns, and pleaded for answers from the Riverside County Sheriff's Office. Days became weeks. Weeks dragged into months. Months stretched into more than a year. Hope dimmed, but it never fully died. Every time the phone rang, every knock at the door, there was always that agonizing question. Is this it? Did they find her? Now, on September 17th, 2025, that cruel uncertainty had been replaced by finality. Celeste was gone. The examiner's report painted a devastating picture. Celeste was small, barely 5 feet tall and just 71 pounds. Her long, wavy black hair was something she had always been proud of, friends said. When her remains were recovered, she was still dressed in the same outfit she'd last been seen in, a tube top, black leggings, and a yellow bracelet shaped like a W. She also wore her simple stud earrings, tiny reminders of the girl she once was. And then came the detail that froze people in disbelief. Etched on her right index finger was a delicate tattoo that read, "Shh." That single mark wasn't just haunting. It became the most chilling, symbolic clue in the entire case.
The girl and David have matching tattoos on their hand. The mom of the girl recalls hearing from her that her boyfriend's name is David, which just happens to be the name of David, spelled with a 4, his performance name. David is 20 years old.
For Celeste's mother, the tattoo was the first brutal confirmation. It was her daughter. She told TMZ she had already felt it in her gut. When LAPD first announced that a young girl's body had been discovered inside a Tesla, describing her size, her clothes, her jewelry, Celeste's mom said she just knew. But then came the detail that set the internet on fire. At the time of her disappearance, Celeste had confided to her mother that she had a boyfriend. His name, David. Her mom never met him, never even saw his face. But once the car was traced back to none other than David Anthony Burke, better known as D4vd, that single name came roaring back with devastating force. Suddenly, the coincidences stacked up like dominoes. The tattoo that matched, the boyfriend named David, the Tesla registered directly to Burke, not stolen, not borrowed, not mistaken identity. To fans online, the picture was forming before the LAPD even said a word. The narrative felt too close, too incriminating, and too horrifying to ignore. Yet before it became a viral firestorm, it was first a personal tragedy. Celeste's family quietly launched a GoFundMe page, desperate to cover burial costs and looming legal fees. Friends from Lakeland Village School described her as gentle, studious, and hopeful, a teenager with dreams bigger than her small town. Her mother's grief poured out during every media appearance. The disbelief, the anger, the exhaustion of living a nightmare where the truth only deepens the pain. Even as the world dissected every connection to David Burke, her family was left with the crushing reality. They had prayed for answers, but nothing about this ending could ever bring peace. By now, this wasn't just a Los Angeles homicide investigation. It had spiraled into a global scandal. The questions mounted by the hour. How long had Celeste been dead? Who placed her in the frunk of that Tesla? And the biggest one of all, what real connection did David Anthony Burke have to the teenage girl whose remains had just been identified? Fans immediately started digging, pointing straight back to his viral hit Romantic Homicide. The lyrics included the chilling line, "In the back of my mind, you died." Even more unsettling, the song's release date reportedly lined up with Celeste's own birthday. Coincidence? Or a sinister breadcrumb hiding in plain sight? To make sense of it, people began revisiting David's past, the controversial story of how he became D4vd. Long before his name was tied to a homicide probe, he was considered one of Gen Z's most unlikely stars. His rise embodied the fantasy of turning isolation into inspiration, transforming endless gaming sessions into moody tracks that reached millions worldwide. Born in Queens, New York in 2005, Burke's early years were anything but flashy. He grew up in a strict Christian household, homeschooled until his teens. While other kids traded laughs in classrooms and cafeterias, David's world was smaller: Bible study, church choirs, and marathon gaming sessions in his bedroom. That same loneliness would later seep into his music, shaping the haunting, vulnerable sound that defined his career. By 2017, when Fortnite exploded onto the scene, Burke was already all in. The battle royale became more than a hobby. It consumed him. Days blurred into nights as he grinded levels, experimented with strategies, and built an online crew that became his only real social circle. And it was in that digital isolation that the artist D4d was quietly born. Soon, gaming wasn't enough for Burke. He wanted more than just grinding matches. He wanted an audience. He started uploading Fortnite montage videos to YouTube, hoping to break into the booming gaming creator world. At first, nobody cared. His earliest clips barely scraped a few hundred views, but then Burke noticed a pattern. The montages that used music, synced cuts, and flashy edits backed by recognizable songs suddenly blew up. That was the first real taste of viral fame. Numbers jumped from hundreds to 200,000, then 300,000, and eventually millions. For the first time, things felt like they were finally clicking for him. But there was a problem. The same popular tracks that supercharged his views also triggered copyright strikes. By 2021, Universal Music Group and other major labels came knocking with takedowns, wiping his ad revenue overnight. Burke, still just a teenager, was crushed. The dream of being a gaming YouTuber was collapsing before his eyes. He vented to his mother, frustrated, defeated. Her response? Brutal, but life-changing. Then make your own music. That piece of blunt advice flipped his path forever. On December 21st, 2021, Burke took matters into his own hands. He downloaded a music-making app onto his iPhone, plugged in his cheap Apple earbuds, and turned his sister's closet into a makeshift studio. Clothes, blankets, and robes doubled as soundproofing while he hunted down emo piano-type beats on YouTube. He started freestyling into the mic, pouring his loneliness, frustration, and anger into raw tracks. That tiny improvised setup, an iPhone earbuds, and a closet became the unlikely birthplace of David.
And I looked up how to make music on iPhone, and this app called Bandlab comes up. I click on it, I put my Apple earbuds in, and I use my sister's closet as the studio. So I'm like in here, it's dark, we got like robes and everything, blankets, whatever. And I'm looking up tight beats on.
The world heard moody, emotional tracks. But now, with the scandal unfolding, fans are asking a darker question. Were those early songs just sad boy confessionals, or coded warnings of something far more sinister? The learning curve was brutal, but Burke had something money couldn't buy: instinct. His earliest tracks, raw and unpolished, started finding small traction on SoundCloud, carried by hashtags like #emo, #lofi, and #slowed reverb. Almost overnight, Fortnite creators began slipping his music into their own montages, giving him the kind of exposure no label could have engineered. The momentum was real, and it was fast. Then came the breakthrough. One of his early songs, You and I, exploded, hitting 100,000 streams in just 3 days. Suddenly, Burke wasn't just some gamer making background noise. He was an artist with a sound that stretched beyond controllers and headsets, tapping into something that listeners across platforms couldn't get enough of. But the real turning point arrived in 2022 with Romantic Homicide. Unlike his earlier, lighter tracks, this one was dark, heavy, drenched in melancholy. His own mother hated it, dismissing it as too violent. But to Burke, that only proved he was onto something powerful. When he dropped it on TikTok, the app ignited. Millions of plays rolled in within weeks. Alongside it came Here With Me, another viral monster that embodied the dreamy, emotional aesthetic TikTok feeds craved. By the time both singles crossed into mainstream charts, Burke had left the bedroom musician label behind. He wasn't just another indie kid on the internet anymore, he was a rising star. In 2023, he dropped his first EP, Petals to Thorns, and by early 2025, his debut album, Withered, followed, backed by a sold-out world tour stretching across North America and Europe. Collaborations with artists like Kali Uchis cemented his standing, and by mid-2025, he was pulling in over 33 million monthly Spotify listeners, with millions more watching his every move on TikTok and Instagram. On the surface, it looked like the ultimate Gen Z fairy tale. A homeschooled gamer raised on church hymns turns loneliness into art and becomes a global superstar. But now, with Celeste's body tied to his Tesla, fans can't stop asking, was that sad boy music just pain or prophecy? David had built his brand on vulnerability and creativity. The accidental superstar who once admitted he never even planned to become a musician. To fans, he was soft-spoken, modest, the kid who turned loneliness into art. But as the Celeste Rivas investigation deepened, that carefully polished image started to crack, and shadows from his past began leaking out online. Screenshots surfaced from old Discord servers, allegedly dating back to 2023. These unverified posts appeared to show Burke interacting with a girl who bore a striking resemblance to Celeste, back when she was barely a teenager. Some fans insisted the exchanges suggested he was far closer to her than he ever admitted. Grainy, blurry images also began circulating. Photos that people swore showed the two of them together. Then came the bombshell, whispers of a lost track called Celeste. According to metadata tied to Interscope Records, Burke had recorded an unfinished demo under that name in 2023. The alleged lyrics, themes of longing and secret romance. After the discovery of Celeste's body, listeners became convinced the song wasn't just another moody ballad. It was inspired directly by the girl later found in his Tesla. The rumors didn't stop there. Online communities started circulating darker allegations that Burke may have begun an inappropriate relationship with Celeste when she was as young as 12 or 13. Some threads even pushed the theory that hush money had been exchanged to keep damaging interactions from surfacing. None of these claims have been confirmed by authorities, but in the echo chamber of TikTok and Reddit, clarity doesn't matter, controversy does. One rumor in particular refused to die, that Burke had allegedly paid to silence multiple underage girls who crossed his orbit. Again, no verified evidence exists to back this up. But in the wildfire of social media, speculation spreads faster than facts. For fans, the coincidences were stacking up, and the picture they were drawing looked darker by the day. Burke, the shy, soft-spoken artist who once admitted he had to imagine heartbreaks just to write love songs, was now being painted in a chilling new light. No longer the introverted dreamer, Online, he was being recast as something far darker, a predator who groomed a teenager, hid her body, and maybe even scattered clues across his own lyrics for the world to miss. Before 2025, Burke's record was practically spotless. He wasn't the type to stir beefs with other artists. While TikTok-born musicians traded shots and clout-chased drama, D4vd kept to his corner, avoiding controversy and sticking to his music. That's exactly why the scandal detonated so violently. Fans had no warning signs, no messy history to prepare them for a storm of this magnitude. And then came the official fallout, the initial investigation. When the decomposed body of Celeste Rivas Hernandez was pulled from the frunk of that black Tesla Model 3, everything changed. The vehicle was registered directly to David Anthony Burke, cementing him at the very center of the LAPD's most high-profile case in years. From the moment the trunk was unsealed at Hollywood Tow, detectives knew this wasn't just another abandoned car or missing person report. This was a homicide tied to a rising global music star, a case that demanded precision, urgency, and answers that the public was already screaming for. Every second, every move, every leak mattered, because the whole world was watching. The black Tesla was quickly wrapped in yellow crime scene tape, transforming the Hollywood tow yard into a high-security evidence zone. Forensic teams swarmed the vehicle, working late into the night. Every angle was photographed, every surface swabbed. When the body was removed, the coroner later revealed its horrifying state: advanced decomposition, consistent with being hidden for weeks, maybe even months. Inside the Tesla, nothing was left untouched. Investigators collected fingerprints, DNA traces, stray fibers, soil samples, right down to air quality readings inside the cabin. Every square inch, from the leather seats to the glove box, was combed over. But detectives had an even bigger advantage. Teslas aren't just cars, they're computers on wheels. GPS routes, door openings, driver profiles, and logs of every trip were stored inside its system. If unlocked, the digital trail could reveal a chilling minute-by-minute account of where the car had been and who had access to it. Still, despite the gruesome discovery, no arrest came immediately. That decision sent shockwaves online. Angry commenters flooded X, accusing LAPD of shielding Burke because of his rising celebrity status. Others insisted the delay was strategy, that detectives were quietly building an airtight case to prevent Burke's lawyers from tearing it apart later in court. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office was tasked with confirming what Celeste's tattoo had already suggested. Dental records sealed it. The body was hers. But the official cause of death remained a mystery. On September 17th, the coroner listed it as deferred, pending toxicology test and deeper analysis. That one word opened the floodgates. Was Celeste killed violently? Was it an overdose? Was she suffocated, poisoned, or left to die slowly? With no clear answers, speculation only intensified. And as the rumors spread, one thing became certain. The silence was fueling a fire that wasn't burning out anytime soon. With no clear answers from police, social media took over, and the theories turned darker by the hour. Some fans pointed straight to romantic homicide, calling it a straight-up confession in plain sight. Others claimed Celeste may have been drugged to keep her quiet. Every new rumor spread faster than the last, each one more sensational than the one before. Meanwhile, detectives were grinding through the facts, trying to reconstruct Celeste's final hours. They went back to April 5th, 2024, the night she was last seen by her brother Matthew, heading out for a movie. They canvassed neighbors in Lake Elsinore. They pulled her phone records, scoured social media, DMs, location pings, anything that could fill in the gaps of a girl who simply vanished, only to resurface a year later in the most horrifying way possible. And every path kept circling back to one name: David Anthony Burke, his Tesla, his registration, his rising celebrity tied to a car that had become a crime scene. Detectives subpoenaed his travel logs, cross-referencing his 2024 to 2025 tour schedule with the timeline of Celeste's disappearance. They dug through his cell phone data, Discord chats, emails. Even his family's home in Houston reportedly became part of the probe. Publicly, LAPD spokespeople played it cautious. "We are following all leads," one statement read, stopping just short of naming Burke as a suspect. But behind closed doors, the pressure was mounting. Detectives weren't just chasing a homicide investigation anymore. They were racing to stay ahead of a wildfire of conspiracy theories spiraling out of control online. And the deeper they dug, the more it became clear. This wasn't just about the tragic death of one teenager. This case was turning into a full-scale collision between celebrity, fandom, and justice, with the entire world demanding answers. And in the silence left by investigators, speculation wasn't just filling the void, it was rewriting the story in real time. By now, the internet had turned into a global courtroom, and David was the defendant. TikTok creators were dissecting his lyrics line by line, convinced his songs weren't just emotional ballads, but thinly veiled confessions. One viral clip stitched the haunting lyric, "In the back of my mind you died," with Celeste's missing posters, captioned chillingly, "Was he telling us all along?" On Reddit, entire threads sprouted under titles like "Timeline of D4vd's and Celeste." Amateur sleuths mapped his concert tour stops against the timeline of her disappearance, highlighting every gap, every moment where his whereabouts seemed unclear. Some even pushed the theory that he strategically scheduled shows in cities far from Los Angeles, manufacturing a perfect alibi. Others obsessed over alleged proof of a secret relationship. The biggest? The rumored matching sheesh tattoos. Fans spun it as evidence of a hidden bond between him and Celeste. Suddenly, every scrap of data became a potential smoking gun. Old live streams were replayed frame by frame. Photos were zoomed in on, searching for ghostly figures in the background. Even the metadata of unreleased demos was scoured, as if his hard drive was a crime scene waiting to be cracked open. And this wasn't just fringe internet chatter anymore. What started with fan detectives spilled into the mainstream. Major media outlets began covering the story, amplifying theories that had originated in the echo chambers of TikTok and Reddit. What once looked like harmless speculation was now shaping the narrative for millions. The line between fact and rumor had officially blurred, and it was blurring in front of the entire world. Theories piled up by the hour. Some focused on the eerie coincidence of the matching Shay tattoo. Others latched onto Celeste's mother's heartbreaking statement that her daughter once mentioned a boyfriend named David. But the most explosive twist came with whispers of a lost, unreleased track allegedly recorded in 2023. A song called Celeste. The rumor claimed its lyrics spoke of forbidden love and a tragic ending. No official release has ever surfaced, but supposed leaks, grainy snippets passed around like contraband, spread across the internet at lightning speed. Authentic or not, fans treated it as gospel, dissecting every line as though it was the smoking gun in a murder trial. Still, not everyone bought into the hysteria. Burke's most loyal supporters pushed back, arguing the so-called evidence was thin and circumstantial. The shh tattoo. They pointed out it wasn't unique at all. Even Rihanna had it. The alleged demo leaks, unverified, impossible to confirm, and song lyrics. They reminded people that artists have always written about fictional pain, fantasy deaths, and exaggerated heartbreaks. To them, twisting lyrics into proof was reckless, and the real tragedy was Celeste's death being drowned out by conspiracy theories. But no matter the defenses, the tide of public opinion leaned heavily against Burke. Hashtags like #arrest. David Burke trended daily. Memes mocked him as the real romantic homicide. Online petitions racked up signatures, demanding Spotify and YouTube pull his music until the investigation wrapped. For Celeste's grieving family, the frenzy was unbearable. Her mother told TMZ she felt like her daughter's death had been stripped of dignity, transformed into a digital spectacle, a piece of viral entertainment instead of the devastating loss it truly was. Celeste's family begged for privacy, but their voices were drowned out by the roar of speculation. For detectives, the viral frenzy was both a blessing and a curse. On one side, tips poured in, strangers scouring Burke's digital trail, sometimes unearthing leads worth a closer look. But on the other, the tidal wave of noise made it nearly impossible to separate fact from fiction. Every baseless rumor meant hours wasted chasing ghosts, while the internet spun itself into wilder theories by the minute. By mid-September 2025, one truth was undeniable. This wasn't just a homicide investigation anymore. It had become a trial by social media, and the verdict wasn't being debated in a courtroom. It was being decided in comment sections, viral TikToks, and Reddit threads. The case had shifted from what really happened to Celeste to a much darker question. Could David Anthony Burke ever escape the narrative swallowing him whole? As investigators combed through evidence, the music industry wasted no time protecting itself. Interscope Records, the label that signed Burke, reportedly rushed into emergency meetings, debating whether to suspend his contract altogether. Collaborators scrambled to cut ties. Kali Uchis went public, confirming she wanted no association with him, and their track crashing quietly vanished from playlists. Streaming platforms faced mounting pressure as petitions with tens of thousands of signatures demanded his music be removed. Promoters began bailing out too. By September 20th, at least 4 of his fall tour dates were canceled. Refunds quietly issued to disappointed fans. For an artist who only months earlier boasted 33 million monthly Spotify listeners, the collapse was swift and brutal. What started as a police investigation had now snowballed into something larger. A cultural reckoning where reputation, fandom, and justice were colliding in real time. The fall was ruthless. What took years of grinding to build unraveled in a matter of days. Among fans, the fracture was absolute. Former diehards who once streamed his songs on repeat deleted him overnight, scrubbing their playlists and posting angry clips captioned, "We supported a monster." Others, just as loud, doubled down in his defense, calling the whole thing a witch hunt and reminding anyone who'd listened that no charges had actually been filed. On X, one viral comment summed it up with chilling simplicity. It's either the biggest setup in music history or the darkest scandal we've ever seen. The debate turned toxic fast. Some fans lashed out at Celeste's grieving family, accusing them of exploiting her death. Others harassed Burke's relatives, digging up old photos and addresses, spreading them online like weapons. What should have been a fight for justice twisted into a digital war zone, with a devastated family trapped in the middle. For law enforcement, the case morphed into a public referendum on trust. Could the LAPD convince the world they were chasing the truth, not shielding a celebrity? Every day without an arrest was read by critics as proof of corruption, while others argued the delay meant detectives were building something airtight. For the Rivas family, none of that mattered. Their daughter's story, their pain, their fight for answers, it was being devoured by the machinery of celebrity scandal. Her memory wasn't just mourned, it was hashtagged, dissected, and spun into clickbait headlines. And for Burke, the consequences cut even deeper. Even if investigators cleared him tomorrow, the court of public opinion had already slammed down its gavel. The homeschooled gamer, the sad boy poet, the humble Christian musician, that persona was gone. In its place stood something far darker, a man whose art, his past, and his very identity were now chained to tragedy. As September closed, the hard facts hadn't shifted. No arrests. Toxicology tests still pending. Tesla's black box data still locked under analysis. But none of that mattered because the world had already made up its mind. What began as a missing person report in 2024 had exploded into one of the most haunting scandals of 2025. A teenager's life was cut short, a family left shattered, and a rising star's career reduced to ashes, maybe forever. The David saga has left scars no headline can heal. A missing child story twisted into a global scandal. A grieving family begging for dignity while the world turned their pain into content, and a rising star dragged from stages into suspicion. Whether David Anthony Burke is ever charged or cleared, the truth is undeniable. Nothing will ever be the same. His music, once celebrated as raw and vulnerable, now carries the weight of every unanswered question, every rumor, every lyric dissected as a possible confession. This isn't just about one artist or one tragedy. It's about the collision of celebrity, fandom, and justice in the age of social media, where speculation can bury facts and a career can vanish in the time it takes a hashtag to trend. For Celeste's family, the fight continues. For the industry, the reckoning has already begun. And for David, the shadows of this case may follow him forever, no matter the outcome. The story is far from over. And you know we'll be watching every move. For the latest updates, breakdowns, and inside details on this case and the scandal shaking the culture, make sure you're locked in with BarzBuzz.